Ping here, checking in live, respectmyregion.com, coming to you guys live from the second official episode of the Flavor Forward podcast. I'm your host. We've got a very special guest today, Max Vansluys. He is the president of Dialed In Gummies. They are a really wonderful edibles company out of Colorado. You guys are expanding or you've already expanded into Ohio. We talked a couple days ago. The first deliveries and things were made recently. So we're going to be diving into all that today. Max, thank you for your time and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joey. Really appreciate you being on the show.
No, of course, man. I really appreciate it. Today is an episode dedicated to flavor. It's called the Flavor Forward podcast. We're going to be talking about your guys' edibles. You don't have to give me like the IP and the science and how much sugar and this terp versus that terp. We don't need all that. But I want to talk a little bit about the intentionality, the mindset, the curation of this brand, like how you built it. And of course, I want to know about the inspiration into making it because, pun intended, you guys have this brand really dialed in, right? And so
thank you, Joey.
I really appreciate meeting you. We met at MJ Unpacked in St. Louis, Missouri. You guys had a great booth. Thank you for supporting MJ Unpacked. Thank you for just being an incredible company. And more importantly, thank you for just making great products. I've been using your sleep gummies since we met. I told you how dangerous they were because from a flavor perspective, it wasn't like I was just able to eat one. I ended up eating 1, 2, 3. And if you ask anybody during that month span between when we met and the beginning of this month, I honestly, brother, it made me anxious not to have your gummies with me. Like I was like nervous about the quality of sleep I was going to get because of how much work we had to do, and having your tin with me of those sleep gummies. Not only was it the candy addiction that I have because I'm a fat kid. But brother, I was actually anxious about not having it because my quality of sleep really went down.
You know, Joey, we have a number of people that enjoy that product that do not consume cannabis and probably haven't in over a decade, but they were convinced by a friend of theirs that they should try it. They should give it a shot. Now they are regular users of this sleep product. Yeah, they know there's cannabis in it, but that is the only form of cannabis that they are consuming at all, especially on a regular basis. It's really special, Joey. You know, to your point, the flavor of the gummy is outrageously delicious. We took one of our favorite flavors that we produced on a regular basis, acai berry, and dedicated it to this SKU because we knew how great of a flavor it was. And, you know, when you're creating a product that's sleep focused or anything that's really focused towards a certain effect, you really want that to be pretty consistent. You don't want it to change too much, specifically with sleep. A lot of customers, patients, whatever you want to call them, when they look for something that's going to help them with sleep, they need something that's going to be that every single time. They need the consistency, they need the quality. So when we formulated this product, we were really intentional about how we formulated it to the point, something I love to talk about that not a lot of people know about the product. We nano emulsified the CBN cannabinoid in particular.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the CBN cannabinoid is going to hit your body first, giving you that really tired, relaxed feeling. And the CBD and the THC are actually going to come behind it and make sure that you stay asleep and relax throughout the night.
That is crazy because it describes my experience perfectly.
And you don't wake up hungover because the CBN is the first thing to onset and the first thing to offset. So you never wake up with any CBN hangover the next day. We were probably one of the first companies to nano emulsify just one cannabinoid versus just doing it all at the same time.
So that's like in regular pharmaceutical. If you and Max, bro, I'm sick. Can you take me to the store real quick? I need to get some medicine. How many options are on that shelf right now for delayed release? In your case,
oh my gosh,
it's expedited, right? And layered. You're talking layered ingredients for effect. Boom.
Exactly.
Let's go. It was one of those. That's fire.
Yeah, Joey. Well, when we first created the product, we didn't do that. We nano-emulsified all 3 cannabinoids, and we were having a number of people that are in our sleep study, if you will, that were waking up still feeling a little groggy the next day, still feeling that little bit of that cannabis hangover. And so we decided, let's do something different. Let's try and do something unique here. And we just nano emulsified the one cannabinoid versus all three. And it made a huge difference. Something else about this product, Joey, is we actually listen to the feedback that we get from a lot of our customers. 10 milligrams of rosin, it hits a lot harder than 10 milligrams of distillate or even 10 milligrams of live resin. So when we're creating a product that's specific for sleep, we don't want people to stay asleep. We want them to go to sleep and wake up energized the next day. So we actually made this milligram dosage half of what our normal gummies are. So it's a 5 milligram dose of THC, 5 of CBN, and 5 of CBD. So you actually get 20 gummies in that pack versus your typical 10. Definitely helps stretch the pack a little bit. And it also helps for a lot of customers that really are just looking for a nice microdose. If you just cut one of those gummies in half, you've got 2.5 milligram dosage. It's literally the perfect microdose for most cannabis users and a great entry dose. I mean, 5 milligrams is a good entry dose in my opinion. So yeah, that product, we really focused on the flavor and we focused on the effects. That's what we do when we formulate any of our SKUs. We're not really out here chasing shiny objects. There's a lot of gummy companies that are just throwing SKUs out left and right. And I get it. There's a world that we live in right now where we're looking to create products for individuals, not for the masses. And I think that's where these minor cannabinoid SKUs are now coming into play because a 5-to-1, a 5-to-1 for some people versus a 2-to-1 versus a 1-to-1-to-1. We're now going into, as you were just talking about, pharmaceuticals that are creating products that are really for a niche market rather than for the whole market. So I think it's really cool what's happening right now in cannabis, Joey. Specifically in edibles, you're starting to see there are brands that are just going for the highest dose, which is great because you have people that want high dose products. But then you've got brands like ourselves that are really focused on the wellness side of things and focusing on how to create products that are going to be good for multiple effects, not just one or not just getting people high on THC. And that's one of our big focuses moving forward as a company is how do we create products that are really can be used across the board for the masses, but for individuals as well.
I couldn't agree more with your guys's perception, understanding of where consumers are at in this realm. You look if we both take a step back, and for shout out to all those of you watching, if you all take a step back with us and you look at these products in different market, everything has a similar sticker on it in terms of the information that's required, right? Whatever it is. And you start to see that what are the things bud tenders can talk about to help a product get sold. There's not a lot of info in terms of what's on the packaging. There's the brand stuff, then there's the required stuff. And most of the time, the bud tenders are pulling from the THC numbers. It's fair because that's the information that's on it. If you look at me, you just make a judgment. Oh, Joey, oh yeah, that guy, he likes the Raiders. That's the only info you got. That's the only info you got when you look at me. You just because I got glasses don't mean I'm smart, right? It just my chest says Raiders, right? So you got to think like these bud tenders. How do they differentiate a product when there's not a lot of info differentiating these products? And you got to think like in the world of THC chasing, 10 milligram consistencies. A lot of it is just the same. And so it's actually easier in my world to stand out by simply niching your product or your brand and then speaking to that audience, pounding it over and over versus speaking to the same saturated audience that's hearing the same thing all the time. 10 milligram THC, 100 milligram this, cheapest price, BOGO, blah, 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 right? Nah. In your world, there's not every cannabis edibles company makes a sleep product, which is so just by making one of those, you stand out. In your guys' case, I think where you guys really kill it and crush it is in there's 3 ways. The product obviously is delicious, but the branding, those tins definitely stand out in a world of Mylar bags. First and
no doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
So putting that product, it creates automatically more of a craft feel. It automatically creates more of a, not necessarily luxury like gold and diamonds and, Kardashian luxury, everything. We're talking just
but it's high end. It's a high end though.
It's a higher end. right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then you think, okay, remember that media that came out a couple years ago about 70+% of people using cannabis for sleep? Well,
Hmm.
now we're speaking to the 7 out of 10 audience, which is
Yep,
still niche,
absolutely.
but now it's also the majority, right? And so I think you guys have done a really phenomenal job of doing that. And that's where I want to talk about your, not necessarily like every single SKU you have, but I want to go over the product line. You guys are a gummy
Yeah.
brand. Can you talk to me
Hmm.
about your guys' overall best selling, most popular SKUs in Colorado? And then we'll get over to what you just launched in Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely, Joey. So, no doubt, our collaborations sell. They're the best sellers in Colorado,
Oh,
and I
collaborations.
would say, yeah, collaborations. We really work with a lot of the best flower providers and rosin providers in the state. And when we do these biomass procurements, we actually take their logo, we put it at the top of the label to really highlight that collaboration and highlight where the material came from. Like, for instance, this
Oh,
batch
yeah.
we actually got the material from Host, and this was an employee of the month batch that we did. So Jacob Floor, shout out to Jake Floor. This was his employee of the month batch, so he wanted to call it Floor It. So the name
Oh,
of the
you
batch,
have an employee of the month opportunity number one, and winning that gives them a cool opportunity to name the
yeah,
product.
yeah,
That's
yep,
amazing. I love it.
yeah. Yeah, they all get a batch named after them. They get to pick the name as long as it falls into the guidelines of, what's acceptable based on, compliance and everything. And we actually let them pick the flavor of the gummies usually as well. So in this batch, you'll have honeydew and sour raz, and the strain was root beer times I-95 to create this
Wow.
strain.
So that's like a root beer. So I-95. I think that's a kind of a cushy family one, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So this is just your middle of the road hybrid, but again, the collaborations, what this does is this ultimately turns into a conversation piece at the bud tender level or at the
Yeah.
consumer level, retail level, whatever you want to call it. What it generally does, Joey, is it allows for the consumer who gets really excited to smoke a certain strain from a certain grow, the opportunity to now consume that strain as an edible single strain rosin form.
Wow.
Um, we just did that recently in Ohio. Our first single strain collab. We actually worked with a brand that's really well known here in Ohio called Certified Cultivators. I wish I had the tin on me to show you, but we used a really popular strain called the Cream,
Ooh.
which is really well known in Ohio. But anyways, I'm shooting forward. Let's go back to Colorado. So the collabs, they're no doubt one of the best things to help us sell product on shelves. But honestly, going back to what I was just talking about, the flavors that go into those tins, people shop on flavor a lot right now in terms of the flavor of the gummies. So it's nice that we're on a podcast talking about flavor because that is one of the things that separates us from a lot of the other brands on shelves. We're constantly coming up with and creating new flavors and constantly putting them into the rotation. And what that does, by rotation, I mean rotation of flavors that we use. And what that does is it actually gives the consumer a unique purchase experience every time they go back to the store to get a product. Let's say it was Florid this last time, honeydew and sour raz. The next time they go to shop, they could have whether it's you know champagne mango and sangria as the flavors, or it
Ooh.
could be bottle rocket berry and hula berry, or it could be tangerine with star fruit. And because we're constantly rotating flavors and changing what goes in those tins, it really does give a unique experience to the consumer when they go back. And then it becomes a conversation piece. They get to talk about those flavors and that unique experience with the bud tender when they go back the next time. Um, and again, it gives them an experience that they don't typically get to have with edibles, because most edibles you're getting a mixture of a bunch of strains. It's not necessarily strain specific. So you can really know what effects you're going to get prior to eating the edible if you smoked that strain before.
I think I don't want to gloss over what you just said. Most edibles are not strain specific. They are a blend. It's usually
Mhm.
a variety of trims put together to make one hybridized distillate, if you would, or one high THC
Correct.
distillate. Um,
Correct.
I know a lot of people say that they don't do that. The proof is in the COAs at the end of the day,
Exactly.
and in the residual cannabinoids and terpenes that are still in that distillate at the end of the day. Um, which also leads me to the next thing. People actually get high off your products. Talk to me
Oh
about
man.
talking about your extraction and what the comment I just made about residual cannabinoids and terpenes,
Yep.
and when you look at your
So
COA, when you look at your footprint, what's left in it? Because I was getting high off of the regular ones and the sleep gummies, as you said, the science on that was immaculate, right? And there's a reason why I felt the way that I felt. Brother, I woke up clear as fucking day. Like I literally
yeah,
would wake up off one gummy, I would wake up at 3:30, 4 a.m. like, yo, I am wide awake. I am
let's
really
start the day.
like, whoa. And I would always eat another half a gummy, so that way I go back to sleep until my target time to wake up. Right,
Yeah, yeah.
brother. The regular weed gummies, I was eating them, and I would go out to these events. I'd go to these trade shows and these other things that I would be at, and I eat gummies during the day to take away my back stiffness. I just eat it sorely, like strictly to get rid of the aches and stiffness that I have. And those things, brother, it was so tasty. And so I want to focus a little bit on the flavor and the residual cannabinoids, because if you have too many residual cannabinoids and terpenes in an edible, it fucks up the flavor, right?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I mean, Joey, as you know, we're rosin based, only rosin. We don't use any other forms of concentrate when making our edibles. And because it is rosin based, we're able to extract and retain all the natural cannabinoids and terpenes from the plant itself without having to remove and reintroduce them in the process of making that concentrate. And
Mm-hmm.
so, because of that, and because we generally, I will say, Joey, there are times where we do blends where we'll take two strains to create a batch because the grow didn't necessarily have 12 pounds of one single strain. So we sometimes
Absolutely.
will do blends, but we do our best in Colorado because the state allows us to be able to produce all of these labels to do as many strain specific collabs as we can. But to your question, because it's rosin, because it's not live resin and not distillate, we're able to retain all those cannabinoids and terpenes that give that flavor, that additional flavor that you taste in our gummies. It's not that bitter distillate, just like aftertaste. You actually generally do get a little bit of the terpenes from the actual cannabis plant. And it
Mm-hmm.
generally does highlight or not highlight, what's the right word? It
Accentuate, pair,
complements, yeah,
compliment.
accentuates, complements the flavor of the gummy. There have been a number of times where I'm eating the gummy and I'm actually tasting the limonene coming straight through the plant into the flavor of the gummy, whether it's tangerine, star fruit, passion fruit.
Yeah.
We do 28 different flavors, Joey, in the state
Oh,
of
and that's
Colorado,
just in Colorado.
just in
Wow.
Colorado. And we
What's
rotate
your
those.
all-time favorite out of that 28? First one
Ooh,
that comes to
it's
mind.
got to
First one
be,
that comes to
yeah,
mind.
hula berry, no doubt.
Wow.
Hula berry. It's got some amazing hints of like just your like strawberry, like berries, but then it has this like little twist of like tropical fruit as well thrown into it. It
Mm-hmm.
really reminds me of like a flavor that I tasted a lot in the 90s. I can't remember the exact candy that produced it, but it just gives me, I call it nostalgic flavor. And then behind that, it's going to be our dragon fruit. You can only get dragon fruit in the state of Colorado in our CBD 1-to-1.
Mm.
So we do it CBD 1-to-1, 10 and 10 THC and CBD, and that's where the dragon fruit is. We don't use that flavor in any other of our classics in the state of Colorado. Same thing with the acai berry. We only use those two flavors with those two SKUs. So the other 26 flavors we rotate on our collaborations. Um, and then on top of that, Joey, I'm sure you are familiar. We do a liquid gummy, which is a solventless simple syrup that we actually do not flavor. We don't add any color or food dyes to it. It is strictly just the flavor of the cannabis in the rosin form. And
Wow.
there's been a number of, and we really focus on like the fruity flavors for the rosin for that, obviously, because people are just going to use this to either highlight or not highlight, enhance their beverages that they're already consuming. Some
Yes.
people actually do make mocktails with it, zero alcohol, using that as the base. And we actually do an event every year with this company called Groovy Gravy out of Colorado, where they help us coordinate this amazing cocktail event that generally takes place in a similar place every year. Without giving away too much information, because it's kind of like an if you know you know event. But we
Ooh, okay.
will,
The If You
mhm,
Know,
but
You
we will
Know
do.
RMR exclusive, everybody. Make sure y'all tap in for those of you guys watching and hanging out with us. Come on.
That's right. It's an amazing event where we curate a mocktail menu with 4 different mocktails using 4 different syrups. And generally, it's about a 5 milligram dose. So you would leave the event just consuming about 20 milligrams of THC, which really isn't a terrible amount. For some people, we always can do lower doses if you'd like in your mocktails. But it's an amazing way to taste the product for maybe your first time or for your 20th time. But it's just a unique experience.
I love that. I love that. One, I
Mm-hmm.
love events. I love being able to try these things. I love getting to eat gummies and trying things alongside other mocktails. I also love the ability to make my own things. You guys making,
Yep.
you called it the liquid gummy, the beverage enhancer.
Yep.
I think that's huge. Now, one of my key questions that I don't get to, honestly, a lot of times, Max, I don't really stir the pot up. I know it might seem like I'm a little out there, but on these episodes, I always aim to be really respectful of everybody. But I've got a question for these edible brands, and you guys you're from Colorado, the OGs. It's the OGest of all the markets. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a 10 to 15% variance in THC on a lot of the packaging per the rules and the laws and the science, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Colorado goes back the farthest out of everybody, and so I have to ask, when it comes to proper dosing, when it comes to edibles and packaging and listing, I would imagine that what you put on the outside of the packaging, that 100 milligrams or the 10 milligram
Yeah.
of gummy or the 5 or the ratios 5, 5, 5, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
I get the vibe from you that having that be accurate, it's got to be really important, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk to me about how
Absolutely.
you ensure the accuracy of the dosing in your products? Because one of the most frustrating things I run into is getting edibles that says 88 milligrams in a bag or 100 it's like that's the frustrating side, but on the same tip I get bags often that say 102, 104,
Right.
112 I've gotten before.
Getting a
All
little bit
these,
extra.
yes. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Joey. It is a challenging thing in production. When we're working with concentrates that can vary in THC, and if you're not dosing it correctly, it can go bad, or it can go either way, really, really quickly. It really goes back to tight SOPs. That's all it comes down to for us, really, Joey. We've really, over the last 4 years, really tightened down our dosing procedures, if you will, when we're making our product to ensure that we are getting as close to that 100 milligram dose per tin. Obviously, it's a loss for us if we go over, right? We're essentially giving away product that we're not charging for at that point, right? And what we're also doing on the negative side of that is we're not allowing for the consumer to actually dose themselves correctly.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we as a brand hold ourselves very accountable for making sure or ensuring that we're putting out the highest quality product to our patients and our consumers. At the end of the day, they're choosing, we're not the cheapest product on shelves in Colorado. We know that. And so we hold ourselves to a very high standard in terms of QC because we want to ensure if people are going to spend top dollar for our product, that they're getting a top dollar experience.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we've put in place some major processes to ensure that our dosing is as accurate to 100 milligrams per tin as possible. And again, it's two-part. We really want to give the consumer the best experience possible and make sure that the dosing is accurate. And two, we're not trying to, give away money, give away product.
I think as the president of the company, right, we got to be running the business. It's got to exist to offer a good product, right? And so it can't be given away.
Exactly.
It can't be giving that away. But there are, like, as I said, so many brands have this kind of
Oh
experience
yeah.
from a dosing perspective, and it's got to be it's tough because we talk about consumer habits, we talk about the
Mm-hmm.
psychology of why people do things, and what can really inspire someone to get off their ass, go to the store, pull money, spend money to pull money out of the ATM, and then, right, like, spend and buy it on things. And as you said, you guys are more of a premium product, and so not even the bottom of the barrel in terms of pricing, right? We're not talking about a dollar ninety
No.
nine candy bar, right? Or a
No.
buy four get for $5 at the Safeway park checkout aisle, right? We're talking about
No.
these are 18 to 25 to $30 edibles depending on the market.
Correct.
and
Correct.
and in a world where people and these budtenders are recommending, yo, this is the deal we have going on, this is the most affordable, do you want to, how far can I take your money? It's got
Mm-hmm.
to, that challenge has got to be tough, and you add on these dosing and the testing. Can you talk to me about the testing stuff structures that you guys have to deal with there in Colorado? Because across the country, we've seen Maryland, Mass, Michigan, and California, Washington, and Oregon. We all get blasted by the
Yeah.
labs being all over the place and the science not being stable and all this stuff yet, right? Or falsified in some cases. And so,
Oh yeah.
what's going on in the Colorado market, man? What's that looking
Yeah,
like?
luckily, Joey, there's because as you mentioned, Colorado is as OG as it gets, and it's been around the longest. We have access to a number of labs that some states just don't have the access to that many labs to be able to shop. Not even shop based on price, but shop based on the quality of the output or the material
Of
or
course,
the
of
actual
course.
information that you're getting. We have an amazing lab in Colorado. I would shout them out, but I don't want them to get overrun and we lose the time that we get in terms of a return time because they're
Yeah.
incredible.
No, that's fair.
We usually can get results within 4 days of what we're looking for from this lab. Whereas in Ohio, it can be upwards of 7 business days before we can get results back, just based on the amount of labs and the amount of samples that they're trying to input on a daily basis. It's quite incredible. But Joey, to answer your question, we're very lucky in Colorado to have the number of labs that we do have access to, because it is. I mean, I think some companies lean on this heavier than they should, but to your point, we do have a 15% variance in Colorado, and I do believe there are some companies that take advantage of that and just kind of they don't really tighten their SOPs. They're okay with something going out at 88%. They're also okay with something going out at 105%. Um, but in Ohio, we're at very tight. We're under 10% variance of what we're allowed in the state. So we had to really tighten our SOPs to go to Ohio. And as we continue to expand, a lot of these newer states that are coming online are at 5%
Yeah.
variance, 10% variance. So yeah, you have to be really tight on your SOPs in order to not lose a ton of money in product, by just a miscalculation of when you're dosing something.
And rosin is the most expensive of the oils.
All of them. Yep. And because we're in Ohio, we don't have processor to processor transfers. So, in Colorado,
So are you having to make them? You having to make it yourself in
yeah,
Ohio?
yeah, we make all of our own rosin in Ohio. And if something ever goes wrong, in Colorado, a lot of rosin producers, not us, but a lot of rosin producers will sell that rosin to then be remediated or whatever the case may be and used for something else. We can't do that in Ohio. We're stuck. If you washed a batch and it had too much microbial or too much pesticide, and then obviously it's now concentrated, so the numbers are going to be a lot higher on the rosin side. You definitely can experience some big loss if you're not careful on the rosin side. And to your point, Joey, the biomass to create rosin is always going to be the most expensive. So
That
you take
human
a
for
huge
you guys has
risk,
got to be really, really important, and part in your
no
supply
doubt.
chain, the person who's curating, um, all of that input.
That's me.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what does that look like? So it's like when I had a brand here in California, I got to go to all these farms and look at packs, right? And then you're looking at
Yeah.
turkey bags, I'm looking at fresh frozen, I'm looking at disty jars, cured resin live, all the different things, right? Is
All
is it
that.
is that a similar world for you guys in Ohio, or how does that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't pick up biomass from anybody in Colorado or Ohio without seeing their grow. It's really, really important to see how the product's being grown, how it's being cured. Honestly, just good to see what the staff is doing on a daily basis. See how clean everything is. I love going in and seeing the culture. For us to be able to support another brand and put their label on our label, I have to know that the culture with that brand and that business is good as well. Not
Yeah.
just the biomass. But yeah, no, we do grow tours constantly and throughout the year too. It's not just like we tour it once and we trust that it's always going to be that way. I like to do multiple tours throughout the year. I mean, who doesn't like to go see a grow?
No, I feel that. I love being in the grow, and I feel like just having that QC of checking it out and having ears to the street, boots to the ground, ears to the streets, if you would, and being
Yep.
really in tune with the plant as much as you can with those partners. I think that's really important, and a lot of brands that scale and grow kind of lose track of that. I'll just be the one to say it. If you got however much you guys are doing it, consider adding one more in because right? When you're already doing it at that level, maybe there is that 2% to improve by having an extra visit, having an extra conversation with somebody. Hey, we're about to do this
Absolutely.
drop. We're considering our strains for the next 3 years. What are you
Yep.
guys thinking of, right? What would you guys like to see? What is the data showing from a flavor pairing, perspective and patterns and things like that? And that's where it gets really fun. We talk about cooks in the kitchen. When they're
Oh
chefs,
yeah.
when it's chefs in the kitchen, it can be pretty crazy. You know what I mean?
Oh, it definitely can. It definitely can.
So I want to slide over and talk more about Ohio. This is a newer market for
Yep.
you guys. It's a newer market in general. What are your thoughts just from your few visits or maybe your multiple visits over the last few years? And then let's talk about the specific SKUs you guys got.
Yeah, so Ohio's been extremely awesome for us. We are already in, I think it's 56 of the 127 doors in the state. As I mentioned to you last week, Joey, or earlier this week, I'm sorry, we just had product delivered to all of those locations. By the
Wow.
end of this week, all of those locations will have product on shelves.
Let's go.
It's been
Congratulations.
extremely,
That's a Christmas
thank you.
miracle. A Christmas
It
miracle.
really
Let's
is.
go.
It really is. Yeah, it's been Ohio's a really big state. It's not like Colorado where a majority of the density is in Denver, and then you have a little scarce, up in Boulder, Fort Collins, and you've got some in the Springs. Then obviously you've got the I-70 corridor. I mean, Ohio, it's so spread out, it's crazy. So figuring out the distribution was it was interesting, challenging, but fun, a fun challenge. But Ohio as a whole is very ready for rosin products. It's been really awesome going into these shops and talking to the bud tenders and the managers and, asking what's selling, what's not, what are people asking for. And 9 times out of 10, Joey, it's people are asking for rosin. They want rosin based products. With Michigan being just north of Ohio, and with Michigan having such a strong
Oh
solventless
yeah, they got such a
operation
diverse
already,
such a diverse menu up
oh,
there of products.
it's crazy. So those customers that are now shopping rec here in Ohio were shopping rec in Michigan for the last, what was it, 2 years plus. So they know what rosin is and they want it on shelves. It's just there aren't a ton of processors making it right now,
Yeah.
and we're the only, or no, I'm sorry, we're one of two gummy companies in the state that only focus on rosin gummies. So um, I'm told time and time again they can't keep rosin gummies on shelves in Ohio because of the people are looking for rosin as a consumable, like an inhale
And
product,
that's the
but
only
they
thing they
don't
can
have
get.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the gummies are the only thing they can get, which is great.
Form factor, let's
But
go.
yeah, you'd be surprised, Joey, with it being a newer market. The consumers and the patients and the bud tenders know a lot about terpenes and cannabinoids here, and they're shopping based on those, which is really cool to see in such a early stage of the state.
We Max, you've been in Colorado. Have you've been to a lot of these other states and done research there as well? I would
Oh yeah,
imagine you being the boss
oh yeah.
man. Our legacy states have the worst bud tenders by far. They have the worst habits. They don't want to learn, and they expect the most. Now, I'm not saying that it's not bad to expect things or bad to expect more out of your situation or demand more or whatever it is, but Washington, Colorado, Oregon, and Cali has the worst. It has the worst staff by far.
I want to defend them just for a little bit, Joey. I have to. I will say, unfortunately, for a lot of these bud tenders in Washington, Cali, and Colorado, unfortunately, they had to work for some. There were some people that came into the market
Yeah,
early on and are still here that may not have been the best business people and may not have treated their staff the best,
the
and
leadership.
therefore,
The leadership is. It's always this. These comments are
yep,
reflective of leaders. That's what it
correct,
ultimately comes down to.
correct. And so, because you had really bad leadership at the beginning, you've got a lot of really jaded staff members
Yep.
that were just unfortunately treated not the best way and have a really bad taste in their mouth. And you're right. I mean, there you see that a lot in those three states. It was refreshing, Joey, coming to Ohio and seeing the excitement, the eagerness to learn, the willingness to go beyond what they know and learn something new. It really was refreshing
Yeah.
to see that from the staff here.
I made that comment to give context to the fact that
No, you're right.
bud tenders in new states were watching and learning and trying and asking stuff for their
Correct.
friends for years, whereas
Correct.
our legacy states had to build it. We had to suffer through. I'm the same thing. I was sold a dream in 2016.
Oh yeah.
I was
Oh
promised a
yeah.
dream. I was also blessed to work with Leafly and be their first brand ambassador and have a solid foundation of medical cannabis, of culture, of community. Washington,
Hmm.
Colorado. I told you this. I was mentored by Colorado folks, real big on
Yep.
community because they felt like it was lacking community. Everyone feels like their own area is being slept on or needs more, or can
Hmm.
do better or bigger. But these new states that came in, big respect to a lot of the leadership in those markets choosing to hire people locally, choosing to hire people that
Yes.
had experience in certain things,
Yes.
really learning how to formulate teams and build these SOPs to create a conducive culture that really serves the customer locally better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dispensaries are better
It's
now, and that's a fact.
What's also really cool, Joey, is that you've got retail leaders. They're actually leaving Colorado, leaving Washington, leaving California, returning home to bring that knowledge that they've gathered for the last however many years at retail in those regions and bringing that to their home state, which I think
Yep.
is so cool. I think it's really, really cool. I've ran into a number of bud tenders that already knew about our product because they've worked in Colorado retail at some point in the last 3 to 4 years.
Right.
So I
Isn't
think
it
that,
cool how like regionally too, Michigan, Ohio, Oklahoma, a bunch of Colorado and Missouri, a bunch of
yeah,
Colorado folks infiltrated those places, and
oh
then
yeah,
whereas Cali went like Arizona, Nevada, Oklahoma
yep,
at first, Oregon
yep,
and Washington just went down, right, and
mm-hmm,
then kind of over to Montana now, kind
yep,
of, but like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's interesting. It's like the Oregon Trail. It's interesting these different trails where people went to get to where they were trying to
yep,
go for their future. Okay,
100%.
we got 10 minutes left, Max. And I don't want to waste any part of
Okay,
your day. This is
let's
the
keep,
first
yep,
day back from Christmas, and we're still in the holiday season. I believe Kwanzaa started today, if I'm not mistaken. One of the other holidays. I just wanted to show love to that. But
Hanukkah
Hanukkah,
started.
Hanukkah. That's what it is. Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, yep,
Um,
it
I've
started
got
on
a
Christmas.
I've got a variety of questions that are meant to be a little bit funnier and entertaining. And so I'm going to rush through these as with you as I can. These are meant for you to kind
Let's
of
do
just
it.
pop off if you
Yep,
can.
yep.
First things first, if you had to pick one flavor of Dialed In Gummies to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, it's got to be hula berry all day.
Too easy. We set you up too easy with
Yeah.
that one. Okay, hula berry it is. For you, when do you enjoy a dialed in gummy? What's that go to daily activity,
Hmm.
weekly activity? What's your dialed in ritual use? What's that look like for you?
Well, I'm taking a dialed in sleep gummy pretty much at 9 p.m. every day. It's like
Wow,
religious. I take it at 9 p.m. I love to be in bed before 10. It's usually, yeah, 9 p.m. I have a dialed in sleep gummy every single day.
that's the one.
Um, on the weekends, however, I will have a hybrid or a sativa gummy as soon as breakfast time and just see where the day goes. And
I
then
love that.
obviously, yeah, indicas for the end of the day. Some days, if I'm really ready to like go to bed, I'll have an indica gummy paired with a sleep gummy. So nice little 15 milligram dose of THC with some CBN and some CBD.
I love that. I love that. I love that, man. This is great. And you said this is the best quote. We're gonna take one as early as breakfast and just see where the day goes. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's so funny. Okay, we got some other really good questions here. So here we go. If
Yeah.
we're a music blog, right? We're a music publication, right? We cover rap, hip hop, electronic music, sports, cannabis, a variety of other genres as well. If Dialed In Gummies was a music genre, or if y'all launched a Spotify playlist,
Hmm.
what's the genre that dominates that playlist, or what's your genre?
That's a good one. That's a good question. I would have to say, dang, that's a really good one. I'd have to say we'd be some kind of like independent funk
Ooh,
band.
yeah.
Yeah, independent funk band, something that the sound could change at any moment.
I love that. independent. I was about to say funk too because I was like, man, some of these funky colors, these
Yep.
flavors,
Yep.
the
Hmm.
strains that y'all pick. It's all meant to deliver something. If you like, I could imagine like a dialed in get funky night. You know what I'm saying? With
Oh yeah.
your
Oh yeah.
funkiest flavors and weird beats and like, oh man, that's a vibe. Okay, okay, okay. Here we go. Here we
Yep.
go. This is a good one. This is a personal one. Have you ever had a moment where you overindulged on your products, aka overconsumed? And what was that like?
Yeah, we used to produce high dose liquids and high dose gummies. So they were 50 milligram gummies, and then they were 500 milligram bottles. But
Oh,
our bottles were only 1 ounce, so it was 500 milligrams in 1 ounce. And I went out one night. I wasn't trying to drink, but I was going out with some friends that were looking to drink. So I took out what I thought was a 100 milligram bottle. Turned out it was a 500 milligram bottle. I was also eating our 50 milligram gummies at the time. I
wow.
think I think that night I consumed close to 550 milligrams. I actually was fantastic. I felt great, went all night. It wasn't until I got home that I literally consumed my entire kitchen. That was
Oh,
the only bad thing about it. I ate so much food when I got home. The edibles
that's
or the munchies
crazy.
were crazy when I got home, and I just slept really well. But nothing bad to
Weed
report.
hangover the next day or no?
No, no, I was ready to rock and roll.
Interesting. Rosin, much cleaner high in my experience from a
Definitely.
hangover, but also too a lot. There aren't, at least in the world of rosin, I don't think there's a lot of strains that are high in CBN. There honestly
No.
there's a lot of flavor chasing there, and flavors
Yeah.
typically don't have higher concentrations of CBN specifically.
Correct. Yeah,
Um,
CBN is a really tough cannabinoid to get on the solventless side. We
yeah.
typically see a lot of CBD, CBG, even some, I mean, really CBD and CBG is what we see a lot of when it comes to the cannabinoids and obviously THC.
This was all very great perspective right there. 550 milligrams. Holy cow. Holy cow. Okay, I got another good one here for you. If
Yeah.
Dialed In Gummies were to collaborate with a celebrity or a regular world brand, what who would it be or what brand would it be?
Hmm.
Or who and what, depending on your answer.
I probably have to go with Sugar Sean O'Malley in the UFC. He's always been a huge, or Joe Rogan. They're always been huge cannabis lovers, and we want to tap into the UFC market so badly, just because the fighters actively and openly talk about consumption of cannabis. There's no really like repercussions for that.
Yeah.
So I would love to do one with one of those two, but I would say that's probably not my answer. And you said it was a musician band. It could be
It could be
anybody.
anybody. Yes, just a celebrity or a brand. Like, oh, let's do
Hmm.
this. Pick a celebrity for a collab, like a dream collab, and then if you were to
Okay.
collaborate with like a regular brand, it could be like fucking Dr. Pepper or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, celebrity.
I have my answers for you already. I'll let you do yours first.
Oh man, celeb. Let's go back to celeb and go brand. I would say brand collab. I would love to do would be like something with Skittles. I would love to do
Ooh.
Skittles as gummies infused with rosin. Oh man, that would be incredible. Or a high chew, like a high chew,
Oh yeah,
rosin high chew.
yeah.
That would be next level. I've always wanted to do something where, what are the bottles? I think they're a Japanese beverage, carbonated beverage, where you like twist the top and it drops some
Yeah,
marble in.
yeah.
I want to do something like that with our liquid gummy, where it drops the marble and the liquid gummy drops in. That would be
That's
incredible.
sick. What a cool packaging factor for that. All right,
Yeah,
so
that would
for
be
me,
awesome.
there's a bunch of athletes over time that
Oh yeah.
are crazy when it comes to eating candy, dude. And
Oh
so
yeah.
you in my world, like I think sports is a great world. So like, grab a couple of those the candy snacker athletes and put together a little team
Hmm.
of those guys. I think that would
Yep.
do crazy from an athlete perspective. And I agree with you on the UFC. That'd be a dream one as well. Sugar Sean O'Malley, any of those cats, right? Like that are really in there, huge. And then brand, I was really thinking like, there's the dream ones, but like, what's actually happening in reality is you have companies like Sunny Delight, Hawaiian Punch They're making the ready to drink cocktails, right, in a can,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so you think like those companies are actually expanding away from kids and getting into 21 plus categories. I think it
Yep.
would be so incredible for you to collaborate with the Sprites and the 20 and the Sunny D's or the Hawaiian Punch or a variety of those kinds of companies to make a product line like that. The Calypso lemonades, things of
Oh
like
yeah.
all
Yep.
that kind
That
of
would be
stuff.
awesome.
Oh my
That would
god!
be awesome.
Especially considering the rosin pairing that can go into that as well. Cool. Well, I appreciate your answer there. That was a fun one. Last but not least, here, Max, you got the big stage here. We respect my region. This is episode 2 of the Flavor Forward podcast. It's a big deal right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What's one misconception that we can debunk here on stage when it comes to cannabis gummies, rosin? What is one massive misconception you would like to speak on here today?
Don't shop on high percent of THC. Don't shop on THC percentages. You'd be missing out on a lot of really great flower out there that has amazing other cannabinoids and terpenes in it that don't get presented on just your THC percent. I feel like that's one of the number one things that happens in these new regions. I mean, I'm priced on biomass based on THC percentages, so it's being priced to the consumer based on THC percentage. I think we need to debunk that as soon as we can. There's a lot of people that still shop based on THC percentage. Again, if you're just shopping on THC, you're missing out on a lot of other beautiful benefits this plant provides.
Pivot that part is the first part. Second part, what should they be asking for? What should they be asking about? How should
They
they be
should be
shopping?
asking. They should be shopping about what other terpenes are present in that, because that's going to give you your flavor profile of what's in that plant. At the end of the day, Joey, when we were all shopping for a flower from our buddies before we were in a shop, we used our eyes and our nose. That's all we had. That's all we had was our eyes and our nose to go off of on what flower we wanted to buy from our guy, right? So I say look at terpenes, and then if you want to know other cannabinoids, great, but terpenes are a great one to look at.
Huge. For those of you guys watching, man, I really appreciate y'all for showing us love. Today we had the president of Dialed In Gummies, one of, if not the best, cannabis edibles producer manufacturer there in Colorado. Obviously, the big dog Wana comes out of there, and Wilds out of Oregon. But I'm gonna go so far as to say I think y'all's gummies tasted better than both of those companies, and I think that comes from
Thank you, Joey.
craft. I think that comes from intentionality, creativity, and being the scale in which you are. And so, Max, as you continue growing and as your success continues to pour in, please keep that in mind as you guys have 28 delicious flavors and sleep gummies that really put a smile on people's faces, not just for yourself
Thank
as
you,
the
Joey.
president, but like, damn, man, I'm genuinely missing though. And I have a bunch of other sleep gummies here ranging from Wild to these other brands and stuff. And it's just, I crave it from the candy and flavor perspective, and I really, now that I know that was the onset nano emulsified for one cannabinoid and the rest over time, it really does say a lot about your guys' science. It really says a lot about your SOPs and your QC and how you have your brand dialed the fuck in, man. You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate you, Max, for being here with me today. Everybody, today's episode was brought to you guys by The Flavor Company. They are one of the cannabis industry's premier flavor providers. If you are making beverages, if you're making edibles, if you are trying to get into the hemp space, they work in that area. They are kind enough to support RMR, and they are just looking for introductions to you guys. So as a resource, they are my resource. Thank you guys again for watching. Max, what would you like to leave the people with today before we get you out of here?
So we are now officially, like I said, in Colorado and Ohio, with other regions and other states coming online soon. So keep an eye out for us. Our Instagram is dialedingummies.com. You can find a lot of our news and updates there. And I look forward to hearing, getting some new customers and seeing what people think about the gummies.
Come on, man, dialed in. Get your guys' edibles dialed the fuck in with this squad, man. I appreciate y'all. Get your sleep going. Hey, you know what they say, Max, right? The better you sleep, the longer you live. And so it's not about how much you sleep. It's about the quality of your sleep. And so I encourage
add years to your life by eating dialed in.
Come on, y'all heard it here first. I appreciate you guys. Max, I'm going to push end here. We're going to wait for a second. I'll see you guys.